What's going on, gamers? We have an interesting thread right here by Hunter and by a couple other people that have posted it, and it's related to PS5. I'm going to bring in the PS6, of course, a little bit too. PS5 Pro, PSSR 2 obviously needs to be brought in because it's going to be the best place to play Xbox exclusives in the console world, since they're not going to be exclusive. And it's basically now getting the statement. I mean, I don't know if we remember the Astel saying, "Show me Starfield, Gears, Forza, Halo, Hellblade 2 on PS5." I wait. Just hear you. Right? I don't know if you guys remember the hear you thing, but people thought that meant something, and I was making a video, so people thought I was saying something like, "Guys, I'm telling you, don't pay attention to that. It's just doesn't mean anything." She's just saying, "Okay, I hear you. I'm listening to what you're saying." But, it's not going to override what Satya wants. And then you saw Matt Booty come out and say, we're still thinking about first party and all that nonsense. And I made a video about him saying, "Why are you doing this? You're confusing people." Now the message right here is absolutely not happening. Xbox will not return to exclusive, says reputable insider Sneakers SO. And this is just obvious, though. I've explained this before in other videos. There's some stuff to talk about here. Where it's like, I don't know why people get to the mentality. And I said, if there is any sense of it happening, it's going to have to be like timed. Like at best, what you're going to be doing with Forza 6. But it cannot be on the Xbox consoles only. It has to be with Steam. Meaning you're not including PlayStation, but PlayStation will get it later on. That was the best route they could have possibly went, but they don't want those day one explosive sales to be missing from PlayStation and for certain select titles like Nintendo Switch 2, like I was telling people. That's why I made that last video. I wasn't saying that to say that. I'm like, no, dude. When it comes to Xbox, there's no identity anymore. The only identity that it had that actually worked for it was Game Pass lately. Since after the Series X launch, they pretty much just made sure that they put everything in the Game Pass. Like Michael Pachter said, the Game Pass has literally killed the hardware because you're telling me it's really about the sub then. That's like telling me I need hardware for Netflix. It's like, I don't though. It's wherever Netflix is. You know what I mean? Microsoft was trying to push for that, but they made a mistake. Not necessarily with Game Pass, but they made a mistake by making all their first-party games day and date and putting them everywhere. That means you have no exclusive power. Because I can do the same thing on my PC at max settings. And now your competitor is going to be getting all your games, which you need so that you can be a strong publisher, day one with PSSR 2. You see what I mean? So when that's happening, Microsoft doesn't care. Satya doesn't care, and neither does Asha. I promise you, they don't care about that. They never did. Who only cared about that was Phil Spencer. And the old Xbox mentality that was kind of still wanted to stick it to Sony, along with Pachter that kind of still wanted to find a way for them to compete. As far as I'm concerned, everybody kind of got past the exclusive game kind of a while ago when it comes to that sort of thing. And they thought Sony was going to continue to go deeper into the exclusive world with Steam. And I don't blame people because Sony had you kind of thinking that maybe for 6 years. And you're like, but you're not making as much money as we thought. When we started to find that out, once I first saw that at the end of last year, I was like, oh, Sony's going to back out. I don't see why they should keep dropping their identity and their brand to get disrespected by PC gamers. Because that's what Westerners do a lot, bro. It's just like, well, I told people, I said, think about Bruce Lee when he brought martial arts and look at MMA now. You got all these other people like using his legacy, and he opened up that door. He actually had to struggle and go through all types of racism for that. And what do? They spit in your face. And they take it and they get all up in your face. And it's like, you see, that's the problem with Western society. It's the same thing. Sony put all their games on Steam for 6 years. Now you got people sitting over there disrespecting, being rude, being ungrateful. This is what they do, I'm telling you. I'm not saying everybody. There's some people that are cool about it. But the thing that I don't like is that when you get somebody else's stuff, you're like, oh, I got higher specs. I can play this better than you. I don't need your PlayStation 5. Like you said, it's like, but you have the game because they shared it with you. There's like this disrespectful desensitization that is a problem in the gaming community when it comes to certain things, where it's like, why are you being rude and ungrateful? And then you got mad that they pulled their games. How's that their fault? That's your fault. You didn't go support the games. So it's just like when we criticize PlayStation's Astrobot. But it's like, that's game of the year. I've never seen a game that wins game of the year, though the game did astronomically well, Metacritic-wise and successful-wise as far as developers. They did their job, right? But the sales did not come through because the PlayStation base did not support the game as much as they could have, because that's not the way Sony catered to the PlayStation base historically when you think about the last 3 generations. It's been Western games, movie games, you know what I mean? And games that are survival oriented, games that have that zoom in close up, like Last of Us, and you think about Spider-Man, you think about stuff like that, but not something like Astro Bot. That's more of a Nintendo world. And it was the PlayStation users base's fault that it didn't get enough sales. Though Sony still think probably the game so well, but they didn't put it on PC. It's the same thing when you think about PlayStation games being pulled for Steam. You had like a 1 point something percentage out of the 5 years that it was on there, or 6 years. It's like, dude, that's your problem, not Sony's problem. And you wanted to support it less and less and pirate. So if they pulled their games and said, I'm no longer supporting you because I don't need it, I'd rather strengthen my identity and not get disrespected, because who are you? You know what I mean? You thinking it's all about you, that you're self-entitled to everything because you want to just overpay for specs that are now way more ridiculous than ever. And you supported NVIDIA for years and all this other anti-consumer stuff that has been taken miles beyond ridiculous and wickedness. You know what I mean? It's like, bro, the PC market that got supported is screwing over everything. You know what I mean? And nobody probably saw that coming years ago. Like if you think about 15 years ago when it used to be NVIDIA, you know, those days, because I've been gaming since 1993, you didn't think NVIDIA would betray you like this today. Along with the route that everybody else is going, along with the route of Microsoft, you know what I mean? You probably wouldn't have seen that coming. So I'm not going to fully blame everybody like that and say, let's play the blame game because you over-supported NVIDIA and people were telling you to support AMD more and maybe other, you know, companies, and they end up crapping on everything and abandoning you. And now everybody's feeding the AI and now the prices are jacked up on you, but they made so much money and they got 100 times more money than they had back then, and they still are not going to give you any deals. It's like, yeah, man, that's the crazy part. And that's what we're seeing kind of happening everywhere. At first, we thought it was bad in the console industry, but boy, let me tell you, PC has another thing coming. And then you lost the PlayStation games. So Steam has to save the day again, and they have to build up their identity more. Steam machines coming out, and they need Half-Life 3. Xbox can't really build up an identity because they're pretty much everywhere. They don't have a choice. Whereas PlayStation's like, hey, I have a chance to go the route Nintendo's going to strengthen my identity. And I'm going to do that because you only were this much percentage. If I end up focusing fully on my identity and making PS6 the launch that it needs to be, that whatever percentage is, I'm going to make up for that and get that regardless. So it's irrelevant to me. You can sit there and say whatever you want, like PC gamers are never going to support. It's like, you didn't support to begin with. So it's like, who cares? So the game is now like Sony's going back to exclusives only on PlayStation. The exclusive game makes the competition more fierce because it's like, step your game up now. Nintendo's been saying that, like, hey, I can do it my way like this. Sony's like, I'm going to do the same thing, but at least I tested the waters and I experimented. Microsoft can't afford to do that. If they could, they would do it. Like if the series was at least at 50-something million and they were still kind of selling in a way, it would be fine. But when you really think about the game they have to play to survive, if you want the Xbox brand to survive, it needs PlayStation. And PlayStation did the right thing to be in the position to say, I can help you. Like, you can still be a strong publisher because I did the right thing. And my base is actually alive. Nintendo, same thing. Steam, same thing. And because all those platforms made really good choices and they built up their bases for a long time and they're more gaming oriented, though Sony has their, you know, sprees. We know that. You guys have seen me do that. But they've done a much better job lately. Xbox can be a strong publisher. But what if it was only Xbox left in the world? Gaming just dies then. Nobody has a healthy market. You see what I mean? PlayStation's method works. There's no PlayStation Plus or like some Game Pass method on PC. They're already pulling their games back, but they didn't put everything on there. Nintendo never did it, and they're thriving like crazy, still leading with the world record of all-time sales. Steam is still growing in their own way, and they have their own Linux database. They can now extend out to have their own handheld, which they got from Nintendo. Nothing wrong with that, though. It's who cares? Extend out more. And now like a GameCube type aspect coming onto the market, though. I don't like the price in the corner they're being forced into. I would rather see it be like $650 or $600 and be able to compete a little bit more in a console-like experience. There's nothing wrong with more competition. It makes people get more creative, and that makes you step up. But when you got auto check and just everything's just thrown on a sub, I think it kills the highest level of competitiveness in a development department, rather than we got to be a team, we got to stick together, we have to make this much money back, and this needs to be good, and we have to work together, and we can't get laid off. Like, it keeps the field more competitive. That's why Nintendo's still the way they are. So is PlayStation and stuff like that. I mean, when you think about Steam, their strongest games are always their exclusives or some big shooter, but you kind of need that. So Microsoft has to find that now, but on the PlayStation and Switch. And the thing is, just make your games really good. Don't make your developers worse. Give them as much freedom as possible and support them as much as possible. But as far as I'm concerned, yeah, PS5 Pro, PSSR 2 is going to be the peak for console gaming now for Xbox and PlayStation. Because where are you going to get the highest experience if you don't want to be a PC gamer? You don't want to do it that. It's going to be on the PS5 Pro till the Magnus launches, but then again, that's a PC. And you still got to wait almost 2 years for that because it's still the beginning of this year. So I'm saying for the next almost 2 years, it's going to be on the PS5 Pro where you're playing all those Xbox games on performance at 60 frames per second. Unless you're okay with the performance 60 on Series X if they give you that, because I've seen a lot of games that never hit that on the Series X and you had to wait a while. But we're going to see what happens. This is something that I kind of want to talk about in this video because it's something that really needs to be talked about. Like Xbox not being able to ever go back to exclusives. It doesn't make any sense and it's over. You know what I mean? And Sony actually going fully back to exclusives. We saw a crazy shift here. That does not make Sony anti-consumer. What would have made Sony anti-consumer is if the PC base was like 10%, they were buying millions of copies of every game and they just, pulled it back. It's like, hey man, I was actually supporting you. We did a good job supporting you. You didn't. You failed at supporting in the long term. So that's not an anti-consumer move by Sony. I would say that you're being anti-developer oriented sometimes by thinking that you have the right to pirate everything without realizing that they already have living hell up in there. And you just want to get the product for free. How about I tell you to go inside a developer room that's ridiculous now and hard to work for. And after that, I tell you, I'm taking your stuff for free. You work for me for free. You're my hamster in the wheel. You're not going to like that, man. Ain't there's nobody that is going to want to do that. Trust me. So this type of stuff needs to be talked about. I want you guys to let me know what you think about it. I don't think it's bad that Xbox is not returning to exclusives because it's reality. Satya's not going for it. And we saw that he gave her a blank check to do whatever she wants. Hey, man, that's just how it works. And this is the best route for Microsoft to go. They have to be a strong publisher more than anything. In Game Pass, they need to find a way to get those subs up. And I think they should go down to $24.99 and increase the value of what's added on there. Because you have more people. You have to be able to match that $29.99 and nobody's feeling that. Until you think that you have the best games. The problem with Netflix is they were out contenting everybody and had the best shows and everything. But Microsoft does not have the best games in the world. That's the problem. And it's not all exclusive there. You see, that's the difference between Netflix and Game Pass. Though I've always loved Game Pass, but I don't like it at $29. All right, y'all. Later. Let me know what you think, as usual.